This is the Final Word Daily with Geoff Lemon and Daniel Norcross today, special guest star playing the part of Adam Collins. It's all about the fourth test match, is it? The third day of it. It's hard to keep track by this point. We've had so much good test cricket. This match is very well poised. I've got to tell you all about it in the space of 30 seconds, Daniel. India resumed about 60 runs behind. They were made to work really hard by England's quicks for the first hour and a half, only added about 40 runs there. KL Rahul got nicked off by James Anderson for 46. And then the big partnership, Pujara came in, 60 off 40 balls, started smashing them around. No, 40 off 60 balls. I'm getting the numbers all wrong today. He helped Rohit Sharma, who was struggling a little bit, but then went on to a glorious century, his first outside of India. It's pissing down rain here as well, if you're wondering what the noise in the background is. So we're going over 30 seconds, but that doesn't matter. They bled England dry up until the 80-over mark, and then the new ball was taken. Rohit had a brain fade. Pujara got a good one from Robinson. 3 wickets suddenly rather than one down, and they're 150-odd in front, India, with 7 in hand.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's 171 in front. And you forgot to mention that England went yellow and decided they didn't want to keep bowling because they tried 2 overs of spin and bad light engine play early. But yeah, I'll give you all of that.
The overs thing, well, we probably should talk about more exciting things first, but we're about 30 overs behind where we should be based on the incredibly slow over rates of both teams and then the bad light. But we've still got we've had a lot of excellent test cricket. This was one of these days that went through all the gears, Daniel. It was that real hard-fought stuff in the morning session. There was the free-flowing, free-scoring leading up towards the second new ball, and then the couple of wickets in quick succession, the crowd coming alive, and there's still a possibility that England can knock India over for, say, a lead of 250 and they might be able to chase it, but there's equally the chance that Kohli can go on with Jadeja, interestingly, who's batting at 5 again, so that wasn't a one-off in the first innings, and that those two might be able to push on with Rahane and Rishabh Pant to come.
Well, it's following a pattern that's become very familiar here at the Oval, actually, which is that there's moisture in the pitch in the first couple of days because the drainage here is ludicrously good. So they had to put a lot of water onto the outfield and indeed onto the pitch a couple of days before. And then that all disappears and the pitch becomes unbelievably flat. So they've allowed for an outpouring of batting, something that we haven't seen actually a great deal between England and India this summer. We didn't see it between India and New Zealand actually either. Although we did see it between New Zealand and England. So it was a kind of very unfamiliar feel to watch a day's cricket where the ball was so definitely not on top, where Joe Root had to try different plans. I mean, when he comes to Australia, he'll try 7 different plans in an hour and a half to Steve Smith. But this summer, he's only needed one plan, which is top of fourth stump, hope for natural variation, couple of nibbles back in, get him LBW, one that nibbles away, gets your foot in the slips. That's basically it, rinse and repeat. But here today, wasn't that at all. And Rohit Sharma and Pujara made the absolute most of a complete shirt front of the wicket. Now, what happens on the last 2 days, I do not know, because the last time India played in similar circumstances to England, and they were chasing in the fourth innings, they actually needed about 400, and they weren't that far off centuries in the last innings. I wouldn't be surprised if India have a little bit of a problem working out when to declare tomorrow. Because I don't see England running through them. I can easily see India batting at tea, 375 ahead, 6 wickets down, thinking, we're going to bat a little bit longer, but we don't want to waste time here. We're not batting without the game, but we've got to have enough overs to bowl them out. I think that could be the issue. Don't think light will be, because the weather's need to clear up. The hotter it gets, the easier it's going to get to bat. So we could be in for a humdinger, I think. Alternatively, India will say, right, well, we've clawed our way right back in this game. There's no way we're going to give anything away. Setting them 450, give them 9,500 overs to get it. They won't stand a chance. So it's really interestingly poised, but the pitch was just disappointingly flat today. I mean, I shouldn't be complaining about seeing batting, but there was no natural variation. There was no nibble with the wobble suit. There was no turn, really, to speak of Moeen Ali, couple of balls early on in the spell. And the 2 wickets they did get with the new ball, I mean, Rohit Sharma, what's he thinking? It was a horrible shot to a horrible ball, long hop, stuck in the pitch a bit. And then he got one to need to knit back to Pujara. The best thing about today has been the umpiring, which has been a amusing and goaded on by some of the worst referrings I have witnessed on a cricketer in a long time.
I think we'll come to that in a minute, because let's celebrate first the Rohit Sharma moment. It feels like people have been waiting for this for a long time. They like to pull up that stat to say 25 Test hundreds away from home without making a century, but they're scattered over the course of nearly 10 years. I mean, India's always had this odd relationship with Rohit Sharma where he hasn't been trusted in the Test side. He was playing white ball cricket for India for probably 5 or 6 years before he even got into a Test team at all in 2013, I think it was. He was batting in the middle order a fair bit. They tried him at first drop. He was in and out. He didn't really have extended runs in the team. And he had a couple of innings as an opener in 2019, but really has only been playing as an opener consistently this year, or coming in for the Boxing Day Test in Australia last December. So he's had this very limited run as an opener, but he's made the absolute most of it. 300s in his first 6 hits as an opener, and then he's been super consistent with half centuries, usually at least sort of scores in the 30s or so, up to the 50s and then up to the 80s to be able to set India up. Plus the runs that he made when they were back home in India, playing against England when he was absolutely in a league of his own on turning pitches where everybody else was struggling to score, and he was making hundreds there as well. It seems almost bizarre that it's taken this long for him to have the extended run, more so than that it's taken this long for him to actually make 100 outside of India.
It's lunacy, Geoff. It's lunacy is what it is. And part of it, I think, is because we have an obsession with youth, with those youngsters that smell of milk, that have barely come off the teat, still weaning with little dribbles of milk coming down their face. We want another 19-year-old prodigy. We want to imagine what kind of crazy high ceiling it could be. The Sistine Chapel of ceilings. Surya Kumar Yadav, bring it into the side. No. England have discovered this the hard way. You pack the side with youngsters, your batting will collapse. Rohit Sharma today batted like a man who knows, oddly enough, how to bat. He's batted like an experienced man. He was going it pretty slowly, 36 runs, his first 100 balls. But then he drawn up his 100 with that sensational 6. But by that stage, he was seeing the ball so well, just danced down the wicket, like actually Pujara had been doing to Moeen Ali as well. They gave Moeen Ali no chance to settle, both batters using their feet. But one thing that, just can't stop thinking about, how Rishabh Pant bats in his own way. Well, maybe bat a bit more like Rohit Sharma and you'll score loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of runs.
Yeah, because it was all about the discipline with Rohit Sharma's innings for hours. I mean, the end of the day yesterday, through the first session today, it was all about leaving the ball wherever possible, making sure he wasn't drawn into any silly shots, turning the strike over here and there. And then he was able to start expressing himself as the innings grew on. And of course he's got the power, of course he's got the ability to play the pull shots and pop them over the fence and so on. But he made sure that he took India from a vulnerable position to an extremely strong position by the time he played basically the first bad shot of his innings. He had that little bit of luck. He was missed a couple of times by Rory Burns in the cordon, the one that Burns didn't see that hit him in the ankle, and the one that Burns dropped diving away to his right. But almost anyone who makes big runs in England has to have a little bit of luck on the way.
Oh, right, definitely. I mean, the ball was moving a little bit, nothing like as exaggeratedly as the first couple of days, but there was enough movement to take the edge. And yeah, they were both very difficult chances, actually. Had Burns taken on, it would have been talking about what really terrific slip catches there were. The fact that he didn't is we end up talking about what a terrible slip board in England have got, the second worst in the world at the moment. Only Bangladesh had dropped more percentage of their chances in the last couple of years. But he was rock solid today, Rohit. It was actually lovely to watch. It was lovely to come to a ground and watch actual batting. And I've also got to tell you, rather disappointingly, that the light is lifted now and they could easily be playing. But of course, what with the regulations being completely batshit, everyone's going home. And also, some words on Pujara.
Yes, please.
The series, he looked absolutely nowhere. Feet going absolutely nowhere. That 91 at Headingley made a conscious decision to move his feet and get at the ball. And I think actually basically a bit of off-spin has helped him as well, because he uses his feet so well. 30% of the balls from spinners, he uses his feet to get to pitch the ball up, or to get close to it. He averages over 220 when he comes out of his crease to spinners. It sort of makes the question why he doesn't do it to every ball, but I think it's probably because in the doing of it, every now and then he gets runs as well. I don't know the theory, but it's working for Pujara, and it's lovely to see him back, because he had a kind of hang-dog expression. He looked a little bit like Charles de Gaulle in exile for the first few matches, that slightly sort of melted face of sadness. And now there's a happiness to him. And notwithstanding that, he rolled his ankle over today, had 7 minutes of treatment. He's not the most nimble between the wickets to start with. Can't have a runner, of course. You don't have to be strapped up with like scaffolding, duct tape. And didn't really look back from that point on.
You talked about him moving his feet. He nearly lost his foot. It nearly came off. He was turning to come back for a second run, rolled the ankle horrifically. The whole foot went underneath. It was nauseating. I saw it at the first replay of it happening, and then every time it came on, it's like a horror movie. I couldn't bear to watch it again. Absolutely sickening.
Yeah, I was on commentary with Phil Tufman, and he made the wincing noise 4 times.
Yeah. And you felt, when they were trying to take his boot off to strap him up, he was almost screaming, like he was in real pain, but he got strapped up and he kept going. The toughness of the bloke, and he goes through, he makes 61, and then he gets an absolute ripper with the new ball that comes in, just the faintest little inside edge, and it balloons up off the pad into the cordon. But what he's done with Rohit Sharma is... like I said at the start, he actually scored faster than Rohit at the beginning and helped bring him along. 40 off 60 balls, a strike rate of whatever that is, 66, which is faster than Pujara normally goes. He was playing the cut shot beautifully. England fed him on the cut shot. They bowled too wide to him throughout, but he played that one big shot over the leg side off a long hop from the spinner. He just looked more willing to take the bowling on than he did at the start of this series, and it felt like another significant contribution. I'm sure there'll be people who'll get stuck into him for not making it into 100, but you don't always need to make 100 to have an influence on a test match. So they've got Kohli to come back out tomorrow, who was looking pretty good, drove a couple of very nice shots through the covers. They've got Jadeja, who hung in there at 5, and it's India's game to cock up from this point.
That's exactly how I feel about it. To add to the many great things Pujara did, he also elicited 2 abysmal referrals, one for not playing a shot, which was going nowhere near the stumps, and one for a bat pad that was nowhere near the gloves, or indeed the bat. So he's actually depleted England's resources significantly in that way as well, because of their desperation to get him out. It's India's game up to a point, I think. We always say it. First session very important, but the ball is only 12 overs old, and 2 of those overs were spin. Can England's bowlers be refreshed, or will they just be knackered and stiff as a board? Craig Overton went off rather concerningly towards the end of the day today. If England nip out a couple of wickets, we know that India have collapsed before. They collapse in beautiful sunny conditions at Headingley. If they don't, if Kohli and Jadeja get a foothold, if they're both still there, or if they've only lost one more wicket by noon tomorrow, it's up to India, really, when they declare whether they'll have enough time to bowl England out on this pitch and set them a target that means that they're comfortable that England can't get it. That might be what we're going to end up talking about tomorrow.
The final word, Hall of Fame, the moments that caught our attention. You mentioned Craig Overton, maybe the bit where he tried to dive to save a boundary off his own bowling down at deep extra cover because there was nobody else anywhere near it and he had to chase it back himself. I could do a sort of combined effort here because we like to talk about the player of the day as well, who's obviously Rohit Sharma. I think I can give him player of the day and also put him in the Hall of Fame for the shot that got him out. It was extraordinary. All I can think is that he was expecting a short ball and he tried to play a shot that you would play to a short ball, although the ball was not at all short. It's not like it was a bouncer that didn't get up. It was a length delivery that he somehow tried to play a pull shot to and ended up getting underneath it from about knee height and almost scooping it down to deep backward square leg where he was caught in the deep. It was an extraordinary way to get out.
It was an extraordinary way to get out. And what I think puts him definitely in the Hall of Fame is the way he hung around and gazed at the pitch as if there was something wrong with the 22 yards of tarmac that has got not a blemish on it, which I thought showed terrific chutzpah from Rohit. What he was basically undone by was Robinson's exhaustion, because I think he was expecting, like, new ball, be careful. But Robinson just lolloped in, and it was like 75 mile per hour. If you could call it a meester, it was just driven. And I think that's what surprised us as much as anything else. But it was as pedestrian a ball as it was. So there was that. I mean, obviously, the other Hall of Fame, apart from Rohit, is that incredible six that he's hit. I mean, on a serious note, to bring up his 100, I was on commentary. And because he was on 94, I wasn't really prepared for the 100. And then, hang on, 94 plus 6 is 100. Oh, God, he's left his 100. So, I mean, there's been a Hall of Fame terrible commentary from me on Test Match Special, if you want to dig it out. Overton, you've mentioned, yes. And I think the amount of time that England's bowlers implored Joe Root to refer things and were always wrong, with the exception actually of Robinson's second wicket when he got Pujara. Most of the time, England have been abysmal at referring, and they're taking it to a whole new art form.
I think that was Bairstow who was pushing that review, but Bairstow had some absolute shocking appeals as well for things that were nowhere near it. So, look, it's going to be a very interesting fourth day of the fourth test. We'll be back with the Final Word daily, because that's what a daily show does. It happens every day. Check us out on patreon.com/thefinalword. Hit the subscribe and all that stuff. Thanks to everyone for watching. Love your work. Thanks, Daniel Norcross, for being our guest star today. We'll see you next time.
Cheers. Bye-bye.